Today about the traditions. How important is the traditions for you? Like 10 years ago, even 10 years ago, there was less buildings than at the moment. All the coastal area belonged to salt farming because everybody was so focused on tourism, and it gives a way better money than all this salt farming. All this area belongs now to mostly hotels and villas. I don't want to talk too much about the salt farming because I've been talking about whole episode in the very beginning of my all this episode history. It was, you can check it out there. Just look what is left from it. That's the place where I was filming episode. As long the rain season will be over, the people will start farming again. For example, here where is a hotel, there was a salt farm as well. It starts raining, and then I'm thinking about how important is this tradition. If someone is selling me local salt for 50,000, or I can buy it 1 kilogram, of course it's not the local salt, but it's from somewhere else, the classic salt, and I can buy it for 11,000 a kilogram. That's one of the reasons why traditions dies. So that's the question, how important it is to remember all the traditions. We have so many nations who doesn't exist anymore, languages we don't speak anymore. Is that important to remember all these languages and the cultures? As more educated we become, as less religious we become, and the sense takes over the religion, things which we were not able to explain, and that's why we use the religion to explain. We start using sense to explain that things. Some people exclude the religion from their lives for 100%. Someone is going to the church only on during the Christmas time and Easter. I cannot really explain how important it is to keep all these traditions. I think it's just normal that everything is changing. I cannot imagine that there is some traditions which exist like 1,000 years or 2,000 years. There's nothing left from that time, and it's just normal. And it's also normal how all this place is changing. Before there was salt farms, now there is hotels and villas. When I'm going back to Latvia, I'm not living in Latvia almost 12 years, and it feels that the language has changed. No one is speaking the language what I spoke before. And previously I didn't understand that actually. When for the first time I met Uldis. Uldis is one of the Latvians who's living in Philippines. He left Latvia when it was World War II. And later on he emigrated to Australia. He met Filipino girl. They got married. And they built a house in the Philippines, and it was like a holiday house in the beginning because the family comes from Cebu Island. But then later on he also moved because he became retired. He also moved to the Philippines. And when I met him for the first time, his language felt really, really old. Language which people in Latvia spoke in 1930s. And yeah, it's so funny, and you're telling him all these stories and jokes and he don't understand them just because he haven't been living in Latvia for a long time. He's Latvian, but he already lost. Or maybe he didn't lost, we lost. The people who lived in Latvia, we lost all these traditions and the language we spoke so long time ago. And that made actually me think about that probably the people who are away from country, they keep these traditions and they save these traditions more carefully than the people who are living in the country. And that's true. That's really true. That makes me think about that, how important it is to keep this tradition. Is it so important to speak the same language so long time? Like, I don't know, the language haven't been changed for 100 years. Just imagine that. I've always been interested in language, and it's interesting for me to use big variety of the words in my language when I speak. At the moment, for example, even in that short time as 12 years, the language been changed so much. And at the same time, people talking about how important it is to save the language. While I actually think that it would be great if all the world speaks one language. Maybe it would be boring, but it's even the countries which speaks English. Also, there is a differences. French people always laughing about Canadians who living in this French-speaking Canadian territory. One God is more important than another one, and that's where all the trouble starts. If everybody would believe in one God, it would be a way easier to live. If everybody would speak one language, it would be a way easier to travel and communicate for all the world. And all these misunderstandings usually happens just because we don't understand each other. How important is to wear the national costumes? I don't know. It feels so wrong actually to wear something from the 15th century when we're living already in the 21st. I really love Bali, because they wearing these national costumes during the ceremonies, and that's actually kind of beautiful tradition. I love it, and I like when the people wearing some elements of the national costumes during some particular celebrations. Like for example in Latvia, probably that's one of the countries which still has this national dance and song festival. It's so big because we are a small nation, 1.82 million people, and it's so important probably for us to keep these traditions. And that's great, we're doing it, but we have to understand that everything is changing. I think for every people is really important to save this national identity. That I can say that I'm proud that I'm Latvian, for example, or I'm proud that I'm French or German or any other nationality. We have to understand that all the things may tendency to disappear. And also these traditions will disappear sooner or later. And of course it's really important to keep them as long we can. But yeah, my language is changing. I speak more English than Latvian. We speak Latvian language only at home with Laura. It's so nice if sometimes we have some guests from Latvia, and it's in the beginning I really have to think about how to speak this language to not use some strange words from another languages. At the moment we speak some language mix at home. It's Filipino, English, Russian, Latvian, and also Indonesian now. So it's complete mess, not the language. This morning we did a dive with Mahide, and in the water there is still jellyfish, but only a few of them were active and moving, but the rest was already dead. I don't know why it's like that, but how long the jellyfish is living. But yeah, that's what we saw in the water. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, follow, and see you tomorrow again. Bye. Varungenak. Kids are chilling.